Welcome back, everyone. Today we are diving into Module 20, which is the social and trait theories. We've discussed about Freud's unconscious forces and the humanist drive for self actualization in our previous topic. And today we're going to look at the two dominant frameworks in modern psychology: social cognitive theory and the trait theory. So these theories ask two fundamental questions. Do your beliefs determine your personality? Or is your personality a set of stable labels that we can measure? Let us start with a real world case study. Wangari Maathai. She was a Kenyan activist who won the Nobel Peace Prize, but before the award, she was beaten, jailed, and threatened by her own government simply for planting trees and fighting for democracy. Now, pause and ask yourself, how did she do that? Where does that kind of resilience come from? Was she born with a courage gene? Or was it just her environment? Social cognitive theorists would say it wasn't just biology or environment, it was her belief system. She believes she has the power to make a change. This introduces our first major theory that our personality is largely a reflection of how we perceive our own power in the world. And this brings us to Albert Bandura. You might remember him from the Bobo doll experiment. Bandura moved us away from the idea that we are just robots reacting to rewards. Have you ever noticed how your actions, your thoughts, and your surroundings seems to shape each other? That's exactly what Bandura captured in this theory of personality. Bandura's social cognitive theory proposes that personality isn't shaped by just one thing. It's the result of a dynamic interaction between three forces. He called this idea reciprocal determinism. Reciprocal determinism means that our behavior, our personal cognitive factors, and our environment all influence each other. Just like how it is presented in the slide, just imagine these three factors are going through a continuous loop. Let us break that down. Cognitive personal, this is you. These are internal influences, what you expect, what you believe, value, intend, and even biological or genetic makeup. For example, if you value independence, you might resist conforming to group norms. Behavior. This is what you do. These are the things you do and say. You observe your observable actions. For instance, choosing to speak out in class or stay silent affects how others respond to you, which in turn influences your future behavior and beliefs. Environment. This is the world. This includes the social, political, and cultural context you live in. Think of Wangari Maathai, who grew up under oppressive government. That environment shaped her activism, but her actions also reshaped her environment. Let me give you another example that show how these three factors interact with each other. Let's say a student believes they're bad at math. So it's related to cognitive personal. He or she avoids math, homework, and that is his or her behavior. And their teacher, his or her teacher, doesn't push them. That's the environment. But if the teacher encourages them, that environment changes, which might lead to more effort and a shift in belief. Another example, imagine a young voter who believes their voice doesn't matter in politics, and that is cognitive personnel. Because of this belief, they choose not to participate in community discussion or register for both forums, that is the behavior. Meanwhile, the environment, ongoing debate about constitutional reforms and governance, reinforces the idea that politics is controlled by powerful elites, and that is the environment. But if civics group and school actively engage students, showing them how youth participation can influence local policies, the government changes. And this encouragement may lead the student to join a forum or register to vote, and that is related to behavior, which in turn reshapes their belief that their voice does matter, and that is related to cognitive personnel. Are you getting it? How our cognitive personal factors behavior, and in the same way that our behavior influence our environment, also the environment influence our behavior and our belief. This means personality is not a straight line. It's a constant feedback loop between you and your world. Bandura also argued that humans are unique because we don't just react, we process. We have four special cognitive capabilities. Number one is language ability. We can turn the world into words. If you fail a test, you don't just feel pain. You tell yourself a story. For example, you say, I'm not good at math. That sentence becomes part of your personality. Now, observational learning. We copy others. Example, if you grew up watching your parents handle conflict by screaming, you might model that behavior and become a reactive person yourself. That personality that you have now is modeled from the family where you grew up with. Another thing is purposeful behavior. We can live in the future. You are sitting in this class right now, not because, or you are watching this recording right now, not because it's fun in the second, but because you can imagine a degree 4 years from now. That means your behavior now, listening to this lecture, is leading you to your better and brighter future. That is a behavior that is purposeful. Another area is called self-analysis. We can think about our own thinking. You can say, wow, I was really rude yesterday. I need to be kinder. That self-correction is how personality grows. Self-analysis makes you evaluate yourself and modify things that you need to be modified. After all, you can only modify or change something if you are aware that it is what it is that needs to be changed. And that is through self-analysis. So while Bandura emphasized the interplay of forces, the cognitive, personal, behavior, environment, Rotter focused on where people believe control over their outcomes lies, whether within themselves or shaped by external circumstances. Have you ever blamed traffic for being late or praised your own planning for arriving early? That simple difference reflects your locus of control. Maybe try to ask yourself this question. Who is pulling the strings in your life? Julian Rotter introduced the concept of locus of control to explain how people perceive the causes of events in their lives. It's about where we place responsibility. It is inside ourselves or outside. Locus of control refers to our belief about how much control we have over our situations or rewards. Are they due to our own actions or to external forces like luck, fate, or powerful others? Internal locus of control means that you believe you control the outcome. For example, you get a grade of flat 1 in your introduction to psychology subject. You think I got this, or you think you got this because you studied hard. Okay? Or you may say, I got this because I studied hard. Okay, so the result, according to studies, these people tend to be healthier and less stressed because they believe they can fix their problem. What about those who have external locus of control? Those who have external locus of control, they believe outside forces control the outcome. So example, you get a flat 1 grade on your intro to psych subject and you think, I got lucky, or the teacher made it easy. Okay. Or another example, you failed your final exam and you think it's because the weather made you fall asleep and kept you from studying. Okay? And that is an example of an external locus of control. And the result, based on studies, this linked to anxiety. If you believe you can't influence the outcome, then why try? Right? Now that we've explored how people perceive control over their lives, whether internally and externally, it's time to look at how those beliefs influence decision-making over time. One powerful example is delay of gratification, the ability to resist immediate reward in favor of long-term goals. Take note, delay of gratification is your ability to resist immediate reward in favor of long-term goals. Individuals with a strong internal locus of control often excel at this, believing their choices shape future outcomes. Let's dive into how this self regulation skill impacts success, health, and personal growth. The picture on the right is the famous marshmallow test by Walter Mischel. Imagine you are 4 year old. I give you a marshmallow and say, if you wait until I come back, you'll get two marshmallows. The kids who couldn't wait ate it immediately. But the kids who could wait did not just have willpower, they used cognitive strategies. They covered their, such as maybe, they covered their eyes, they sang songs, they pretended the marshmallow was a fluffy cloud. So they changed how they thought about the object. What's fascinating is what happened years later. The children who delayed gratification at age 4 scored higher on measures of intelligence, academic achievement, and social responsibility at age 14. So let me ask you, when you are tempted to play mobile games, even if you have an upcoming exam, how well did you resist the temptation? Or maybe you want to watch Netflix even if you have to study for the exam the following day. How well did you control yourself? Will you study or not study and just watch Netflix instead? Well, you know already how delay of gratification predicts your future achievements. But what gives someone the confidence to wait, to persist, or to believe that their effort will pay off? In short, how likely can we perform a certain task with higher success? That question brings us to the self-efficacy, a concept also developed by Albert Bandura. Self-efficacy is the belief in one's ability to succeed in specific situation. It's not just about willpower, it's about believing you can make things happen. So, to not confuse this with self-esteem, let us differentiate them. When we say self-esteem, let's say you say, I am a good person, which is actually global. This refers to how you perceive yourself. When we talk about self-efficacy, that means I can fix this specific flat tire that is specific. This refers to what you can do specifically and how likely you'll succeed. So Bandura said our efficacy comes from four sources. Let us use the example of learning to swim. First is the past experience, the use of past experience. Have you swum before? If you swam 5 laps yesterday, you believe you can do 6 today. And number 2, comparison. If you see your friend who is the same height and fitness as you swim across the pool, you think if they can do it, I can too. Number 3 is called listen. If a coach yells, you got this, keep kicking, that verbal persuasion boosts your belief, which makes you swim fast. And last one, which is the use of feedback. If you jump into the water and your heart races, do you interpret that as excitement or panic? How you read your body changes your confidence. It's like asking yourself, what is my body telling me? So we interpret physical cues like stress or energy as signs of capability or vulnerability, and these cues influence our ability to perform a task. Now, let us forget a bit about beliefs for a moment because our focus at this time is talking about the relatively stable personality characteristics that determines a behavior across a wide range of situations. I am talking about trait theory. Trait theory is about categorization. It treats personality like a periodic table of elements. It was developed after a decade of research. It was found that almost all human personality traits boil down to 5 dimensions. It's called OCEAN, OCEAN, also called the Big Five. The roots of the Big Five trace back in 1936 when psychologists Gordon Allport and Henry Odbert compiled a list of over 18,000 words, later narrowing down to about 4,500 English words that describe personality traits. In the following decades, researchers used factor analysis as a statistical method to group these traits into clusters. Early models proposed 16 personality factors like Cattell 16PF. But further refinement led to a more parsimonious structure. By the 1980s and 1990s, psychologists such as Louis Goldberg, Paul Costa, and Robert McRae helped formalize the Big Five factor model we use today. Their work showed that five broad dimensions, openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, consistently emerged across cultures and languages. Let's break down each of these five factors. Openness refers to if you are a low scorer in openness, that means you're conventional and narrow interest. For high scorers, creative, curious, open to new ideas. So openness basically reflects how willing someone is to embrace new experience, ideas, and change. Conscientiousness, on the other hand, this trait is about self-discipline and reliability. So high scorers tend to be goal-oriented and responsible, great for leadership and planning roles. However, on the other hand, low scorers tend to have messy room, maybe late in terms of submissions of assignments. Okay, so if you are a high scorer in terms of conscientiousness, perhaps you are very much organized and you have color-coded calendars and maybe always on time. Okay, so the next one is called extraversion. Extraversion measures how energized someone feels by social interaction. Extroverts thrive in group settings while introverts may prefer solitude. Okay, so low scorers recharges being alone. High scorers in extraversion recharges by being at a party. Okay, so the next one is called agreeableness. Agreeableness reflects to how cooperative and compassionate someone is. High scorers are empathetic and nurturing, while low scorers may be more skeptical or competitive. The last one, which is the negative among the five factor, the big five, which is called neuroticism. Neuroticism is about emotional stability. Okay, so high scorers may experience mood swings or anxiety, while low scorers tend to be more resilient and relaxed. Okay, so low scorers, they're calm in crisis. High scorers, they're anxious about everything. Now, here's the problem with trait theory. It assumes you are the same person all the time. But Walter Mischel pointed out the consistency paradox. What does this mean? For you to understand this, let me give you an example. Imagine a guy named Steve. At a football game, Steve is screaming, painting his face, and high-fiving strangers. That shows extroversion, high extroversion. But in church, the next morning, Steve is silent, reserved, and sits in the back. And that shows low extroversion. Is Steve an extrovert or an introvert? Michelle says you can't just look at the trait. You have to look at the situation. So the formula is behavior equals personality traits plus situational cues. Are you getting this? So another example is that a person might be highly conscientious at work, never arrived late at work, but have a messy room at home. Okay, so that is an example. All right, so where do these traits come from? Are they learned or are they DNA? To answer this question, let's look to the Minnesota twin studies. Researchers found identical twins who were separated at birth and raised in totally different families. When they met as adults, the similarities were spooky. They often had the same posture, the same sense of humor, even the same specific fears. And the data suggests that about 40 to 50% of your personality is genetic. However, the remaining 50% of personality is shaped by the environmental factors. It could possibly be parental style, culture and education, life experiences, and social relationship. This means that even If someone is genetically predisposed to be shy or anxious, their environment can either reinforce or counteract those tendencies. So let's zoom out and compare the four major maps of the human minds we've studied. Psychodynamic of Freud, it's all about the past, your unconscious childhood, conflicts rule you. Humanistic and Rogers and Maslow, it's all about the future. You are striving for potential and growth, and also the social cognitive by Bandura. It's all about the present interaction. Your beliefs and environments loop together. And when we talk about the trait by Alport and Costa, it's about what it measures and labels your characteristics without necessarily explaining why they are there. So, to conclude, to wrap up our Module 20, we are complex creatures. We are born with genetic tendencies, traits, but those tendencies can be shaped by our belief, which is cognition, and the world around us, which is environment. So whether you focus on Big Five score or your locus of control, the goal of psychology is to help you understand why you do what you do, so you can make better choices in the future. Does anyone have questions? Just send me a message through the Google chat box. Have a wonderful day.